So we have gone through the entirety of the female, and now we are in the external genitalia. Collectively, the external genitalia is the breast and all of the external genitalia in the inferior aspect of the body. And collectively, they'll refer to this as the vulva. Um, well, the vulva is what's down inferiorly. The breast tissue is not really associated with that. External genitalia is everything involved here. Just some vulva is just an older name associated with it. The first structure that we have associated with the external genitalia, guys, is the mons pubis. This is an area that's just anterior to the pubic symphysis. It can be covered in pubic hair, doesn't have to be. There's some subcutaneous connective tissue, which is a fancy way to say a little bit of fat in this region. And it's going to be giving off some hormones. And as humans, we don't pick up on that. But there are some secretions that can occur from here. Some of the major parts of the external genitalia are anything less than the mons. You know, in if I was a gambling man on what was to be on the exam, labia majora. We have labia majora and labia minora, some major skin folds and some minor skin folds. That's what they are. The labia majora, they are thicker. They are covered with pubic hair, which is something that you'll see is going to be different from the labia minora. They are similar to the scrotum. So during development, there's some key secretions, enzymes, hormones that get secreted. That's going to force the development of either this structure called a labile scrotal structure, either into a scrotum or labia, depending upon if there's androgens being secreted. So it is similar to the scrotum in a male. It's homologous, similar. Has a high number of sweat and sebaceous glands in it. So it's going to help keep the vaginal opening moist. The labia minora are internal to the labia majora. These are devoid of hair. Okay. Have a number of sebaceous glands as well. And again, that's just to help to keep the skin soft, keep it moist environment. The opening between the labia minora is referred to as the vestibule, and this is where we have the urethral opening for the female. Much different location when compared to a male. We have the greater vestibular glands. These secrete mucus. Again, it's just a lubricant for the vaginal opening, for the vestibule opening. And then we have the clitoris. Okay. The clitoris, is the erectile tissue for the female system. Has a number of sensory receptors there for pleasure, similar to the erectile tissue found in the male. Totally different function, totally different reaction, but similar in nature. And here you can see there's the mons pubis right up there. Can be covered in hair, doesn't have to be. Clitoris is right there. Got the labia majora, the major fold, the labia minora here. Smaller fold, major, smaller. There's the vaginal orifice, and all of this is collectively referred to as the vestibule. If I remove all that tissue away, you can see kind of the greater vestibular gland here, very deep and can secrete a bunch of different mucus. The last bit of external genitalia that we have here is the mammary gland, the breast, obviously. You guys know this. It's what secretes breast milk. Some of this stuff seems very obvious, I know. And breast milk is very unique. We'll talk about it. We talk about it more in nutrition class, so I'll just get into it more there. But there are many different parts and pieces associated with the mammary gland. Some of the most obvious ones are what I have listed here, guys. First one is the nipple. And the nipple is where all the ducts open up onto the surface to transport breast milk, because obviously that's what the breasts are designed to do. The other major part here, and I know I have it highlighted, so there's one on here that I won't have you do. Suspensory ligaments, I don't necessarily care about it, so don't worry necessarily deep diving into that. It's what helps to compartmentalize the breast into compartments. So I'm not going to get into that. The nipple and the areola are kind of the big parts here. The areola is the pigmented ring around the nipple, and it's filled with a number of sebaceous glands. Sometimes they're called areolar glands. Just call them sebaceous glands, and I will be extremely happy with you, okay? They are darker in women who have given birth because they are a hell of a lot more active. They produce a lot more sebaceous secretions, sebum, to help keep the nipple from drying and cracking, because that would obviously be painful for mom, and that would make the latch a little bit more harder for the baby as they breastfeed. It produces sebum that gets on the lips of the baby and helps to prevent the lips from cracking on the infant as well. So a very important aspect. For a woman who's given birth, it's referred to as porous. So if you haven't given birth yet to a child, that's something else that you get to look forward to. And a woman who has not had birth, called null porous, they are much lighter, but they haven't been really activated yet. When you break it down on the inside, and for those who do not know, here's the nipple, all the lactiferous ducts open onto the surface here. Here's the areola, and you can see the dotted sebaceous glands there. Suspensory ligaments kind of help give shape and structure on the inside for all the anatomy. And then here we have, excuse me, lobes and lobules. Subdivided into lobes, and then the lobes are further smaller, subdivided into lobules, okay? And the lobules are what produce milk. Lobules are just a collection of alveoli, but all you need to worry about is lobules is where the milk gets made for the pregnant woman. There's my lactiferous ducts that I just mentioned. They drain into a single lobe, and the lactiferous ducts are what ultimately empty out onto the surface of the nipple. To breastfeed, there are two major hormones that you should know about. Well, what is breastfeeding is lactation, and lactation is just the release of breast milk. There are a number of various different cues that occur. There are both internal and external. External stimuli is the sucking of the infant. So the sucking of the infant causes the release of breast milk, increases your production, which is going to cause you to increase the release of more breast milk. So that's the external stimuli, suckling. Okay. The internal one are more hormonal in nature. That's here and that's here, okay? Prolactin and oxytocin. There are a lot of hormones in this unit, but the reproductive system is driven by hormones. Sorry, okay. Prolactin is made in the anterior pituitary, and it is responsible for milk production, okay? During a certain point during pregnancy, there's a release of other different hormones that triggers prolactin secretion, which triggers the breast tissue to start to produce milk. That's prolactin. Oxytocin is produced by the hypothalamus, but released from, not from the posterior pituitary. The hypothalamus does a couple different things besides releasing, stimulating, and inhibiting hormones for every hormone in the body. It also makes a couple. This is one of them. This is what allows milk to be let down, ejected. Okay. So prolactin and oxytocin are two of the major hormones associated with lactation. Production of it and ejection of it. Prolactin production, oxytocin ejection. There is a female sexual response. It's very different compared to a guy. For a guy, it's sympathetic excitation causes parasympathetic. You're excited, causes sympathetic events all over the body, but down in the penis, it's a parasympathetic event. For here, it's a lot of tissues and structures start to engorge, but the clitoris is probably the major one, okay, that I would remember. Nipples become erect. The uterus becomes more erect. Vestibular glands, vaginal walls all start secreting mucus. It's getting ready to receive the penis, okay? And we want to make it as mucousy, slippery as an environment, so that's not painful when it goes in, when the vagina receives the penis. Orgasm is the intense pleasure associated with the excitement, the exhilaration of the moment. Orgasm also causes some rhythmic contraction of the vagina and uterus. And this rhythmic contraction is going to help propel sperm. If sperm is ejected into the vagina, this is going to help contract and help propel sperm backwards through the system. Eventually, uterus kind of goes back to its resting position, either anteroflexed or retroflexed, however it is. All the excess blood that engorged the region to heighten the sensitivity leaves. All the glandular secretions start to slow down and eventually stop. But something that separates men from women is that there's no real refractory period. They both exhibit a resolution phase, but for guys, the resolution phase is the refractory phase. It can take upwards of an hour for them to get back in the game, sort of saying. For women, they don't have a refractory, so they can have multiple orgasms. Because of that fact, for males, it's a one-off. It's a one and done.